How's everybody doing? Good? How are you doing? Good name, by the way.
I'm good, thanks.
Stephan.
Thanks, yeah. Stephan.
Stephan and Stephan.
Yeah. It's like
Can we
Platō.
turn down the sound of this one just a little bit?
You know how many people say Platō or Platō? They also don't know. So it's like Stephan.
So where did the name come from, by the way?
Yes. It's a long story. But I think initially the concept was that we want to do universities and schools. So Platō, philosopher, he basically started the first university, if you can say so, the academy in Athens. Yeah. So I think there was a cool connection for me to go into schools, universities, and then almost create like your profits goes into bursaries for kids who can't afford it. So that was one, and the other one was in ancient Greek, like you go to the marketplace, you'll have very deep, meaningful conversations. And now we do it around a cup of coffee. So yeah, that's the two short answers.
Okay, that's very good.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was quite fascinating actually, because I'm not really a coffee drinker myself. And so they asked me if I wanted to run this interview by you, and I said, what the hell is that, you know? And so I started to do this research, which Sandra helped me with a lot, you know, and I was just, you know, blown away, fascinated. First of all, that I missed it, you know, but what you guys have built. So you know, when people talk about you and your brand and the vibe, what's the part of the story that almost no one knows, but explains everything?
I think a very pivotal part of the Platō journey is, well, firstly, I think if people see Platō, they think it's a 6-year journey. Where I always tell people it's not a 6-year journey, it's a 15-year journey. I mean, before Platō, I had so many failing stuff, and it was almost those failures, the dots I collected, or the building blocks that created Platō ultimately. But I think the biggest thing in Platō, well, if you can take it just that nobody knows, is like I'm a son of a miner. So my dad is a mining engineer. So I literally stayed in, if you can think of a small mining town in the country, we probably stayed there, Welkom, Virginia, Steelpoort, Burgersfort. I think nobody will even know those towns exist in South Africa. But anyway, what happened there is, like, as a kid growing up, I was in 4 primary schools. So I saw in the smaller towns, there is always an architect, an engineer, and a doctor, and a lawyer. There's money. And it's almost like all the coffee brands started in Cape Town. They don't understand the north of the country. And I think that played a pivotal part in Platō's success and our strategy. So like we target the smaller towns where there's no competition, there's disposable income, and it's easy picking. So I think that's a big part of my upbringing, which I could take and I'm like, listen, but this is a no-brainer. So like for me, initially, I didn't want to come to Cape Town because the standard is high, a lot of competition, it's saturated. And now, yes, we are in Cape Town, but initially I was fine to go into Rustenburg, Nelspruit, Tzaneen, Mokopane. Do you know where's Mokopane? You don't know? Bella Bella.
Yeah, you know, it's so surprising actually that people drink coffee outside of the big cities, you know. It always surprises me. I was like, you know.
Yeah, it's exactly, I mean, if you look at Secunda, that's a great example. It's a top 20 shop in the country. I mean, Sasol, 25,000 people, 70% is white collar, so I mean, you're earning 50,000 up. And I mean, there's just a mug and bean. There was no Seattle, no Vida, no bootleggers, nothing. So for us, I think that's been a massive focus for us to really look at where's the low-hanging fruits instead of going into big regional malls in big cities. So yeah, that was definitely the basis. Like our second shop was in Rustenburg in Northwest.
So you know, there is this quote by Sylvester Stallone. You know, they asked him how come you became so successful. He said it's actually quite easy. He said, you know, I realized that the streets they're paved of gold. The only thing that you need to do is actually bend down and pick it up, you know, instead of just running everywhere. And I think that's basically, to some degree, what you've done. So you know.
Yeah, so I was when I started. Well, when the thought started lingering, I remember at that time. So I always get this high-end specialty coffee shops. I remember that time my wife was pregnant, so she went in, asked for a decaf, and they were like, "How dare you ask for a decaf? It's a specialty coffee shop, you know." And it's almost like that, and that for me was like, that isn't very inclusive. That's not very community. So for me, that very high-end specialty, it was very snobbish for me. So I said, let's do specialty coffee without being snobbish, right?
Right.
And then also, because what I always tell people is that, do you want to be cool or do you want to make money?
Yeah.
Like, yes, we're trying to be cool as well, and we're trying to create a nice brand or whatever, but ultimately for me, it's like, well, you're making money. It's like, I'd rather do Pietersburg than Kloof Street, for instance.
Yeah.
Well, we did have a shop, we have got a shop in Kloof Street now, but I mean, we had one in Pietersburg first, and that almost laid the foundation of, I mean, almost, you know, earning it in a way, and laying the foundation.
But I think though, if I, with my untrained eye, when I take a look at your brand, it's still pretty cool, I mean, you've actually managed to do that, and I think most people here would actually agree that it's pretty cool. But let's just, rewind, and we'll come back to the brand and, the feel and all that stuff. But let's talk a little bit about Moonshot, which was one of your projects that you did first, So what sort of, what did you learn from that, stuff that you normally wouldn't learn, in an MBA course or something like that?
Did you say Moonshot?
Yeah, wasn't it called Moonshot?
Yeah, so I was a full-time Imagineer or ideator at King Price Insurance, so I just had to come up with new ideas. So one of my projects was a cafe that we started called Moonshot in King Price, and that's where we started doing coffee. Well, it was a full restaurant, but then I got exposed to the margins of coffee and etc. And then I thought, like, listen, imagine you can strip away waiters, people stealing chicken, cheese that goes to waste. You just strip away all that stuff and you just focus on good coffee. And that was the concept of Platō, to really do proper coffee. I mean, we'll get people, Tanya's in Rustenburg, saying, you have to have cheesecake. And I'm like, because you're a coffee shop. I'm like, no, you can go get cheesecake at the Spar, and then you can come drink coffee. So it was always been, if the shop doesn't just make it with coffee, then we're not interested. So yeah, at Moonshot, that was where I got exposed to, listen, this is coffee, this is the margins versus food, wastage, high overhead. So Platō's business model, without giving too much away, it's just very small shops.
So would you say that that's where you learned, the craft?
I won't say, like, I'm not a coffee specialist. I'm an entrepreneur.
No, but I mean the craft on hospitality or something.
Yeah, definitely. So for me, I wasn't hands-on day-to-day with Moonshot. It was just my concept.
Yeah.
But I could see enough and I knew enough to know, listen, if you just strip away coffee and you strategically place it in office parks, schools, in communities, it would work.
Yeah, no, very good. So you got four boys?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So your wife has got a lot to do.
She's working much harder than me.
Yeah, it's always like that. And you describe it. You're married to one remarkable girl. So kudos to you for that. You're a builder of brands, coffees, and controlled chaos. CEO at Platō Coffee, fueled by caffeine, creativity, and purpose. I hate that word purpose, because everything has to have a purpose today. And, just explain to me when you say purpose, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, it is probably a broad term, but I mean, I think for me, I've seen with Platō, and that's why initially we bootstrapped the whole thing. So we initially owned all our shops, and as time went on, we figured that the only way to grow real community, and because coffee's got a lot of relational capital, so I think that's what separates Platō now. So it's a long answer to your question, but I'm going to come back.
Go ahead.
It's like we realized that because it's got so much relational capital, the shops that there's a hands-on owner does much better. So then we started selling the shops, and I think in this process I realized what my purpose is in a way, and coffee and Platō plays a big part in it, and it's to share. It's not just this one big corporate structure we're literally choosing community builders in small towns, and for me that is my purpose, to create jobs, to share it with people. So yeah, that's
yeah, and
my
obviously
view.
we will. I can see why everybody's attracted to you, but maybe we can talk a little bit later about the scaling issue. So, but going back to those 4 boys, my gosh, I've got 3 girls. So we were lucky. But
are you gonna arrange marriage?
So what have those boys taught you about yourself?
Yes, about myself, that I can't really function in a chaotic house. Yeah, it's hectic. I need to go to work. But no, it's just obviously, I actually made a post this morning about having your priorities right. It's that whole thing about the glass and rubber ball. And because yesterday my wife sent me a photo of my 3-year-old boy sitting on the grass waiting for his dad to come home. And it hit me quite hard, because you have to, it's not worth it to build this empire and at the end of you've lost your boys or your kids or your relationships,
sure.
right? And then it's too late. You can't rebuild a childhood. You can rebuild a company again. So I think it's to have those priorities right.
Yeah, because I think that so interesting with kids and also with the company, that it becomes a mirror to some degree of yourself. So you see all the best and all the worst thing about yourself in what comes out. I want to ask you sort of, I looked at 4 different types of entrepreneur types, and of course there are many, so there is a visionary, there's an operator type, there's a hustler, or an artisan, which one would you say relates to you the best? And then I'll tell you what ChatGPT says that you are,
I think I'm not a detailed-oriented person, so I'd guess I'd say I'm visionary and hustler, not operational and artisanal.
Okay, so here's what ChatGPT says about you. It says that you are a visionary operator hybrid, 45% visionary, 35% operator, 15% artisan, brand builder, 5% hustler. Your closest founders would be like Howard Schultz, not too bad there. Yeah. Blake Mycoskie, Tom's, I have no idea what that is. Chip Wilson, Lululemon, we know who that is. So, so I think it's pretty cool. So how many times have you read Howard Schultz's book?
I haven't read his book, but I watched the 3.5-hour podcast on the Starbucks story, which was very cool.
Okay, that's pretty impressive that you haven't read the book. Actually, I've read it twice, so and I hardly don't even drink coffee, but obviously he must be some sort of role model for you, or no, not really, or.
I think when we started Platō. And I think that's why people look at our brand and I think, yes, these guys had it sorted from the start. But it's like this moving thing. So our slogan is coffee sculpted, community included. And the coffee sculpted part was, me and my brother didn't know anything about coffee. So it was almost like a blessing in disguise. So we created coffee we thought it should taste like. And South Africans, I think especially Afrikaans people, we've got like a sweet tooth, like milk tart, pancakes, that, malva pudding. So we naturally went to a sweet tasting coffee. So that's why if you drink Platō, you'll taste. It's not like overly roasted. It's naturally sweet. So no, he's not a role model for me, unfortunately not. But maybe it's a good thing. So we figured it out as we think it should be, and that's why, it went into. When we got coffee professionals, they were like, no, the bar isn't right, and the temperature of the water is right. And then they played around with it, and it's like, oh no, it tastes better your way. So, So, I'm not a big reader as well, anyway. I can see that. I'm a bit of a cowboy.
No, but that's so you basically. So how so where did you? At what point in life did you actually started to trust in your own intuition? You know, starting in small one-horse towns, you know, serving sweet coffee that probably tastes like terrible to most people, and you know, doing all these things, you know, completely contrarian. I mean, if you took in McKinsey, they probably would have sort of, you know.
No, so people ask us a lot of times, have you done gap analysis and wada. We haven't done on one side, so it's always been like.
But so when did you start to trust that intuition?
I think the moment when we started seeing, well, yes, we may be onto something. But the point is, because we bootstrapped, we couldn't take risks of the usual spots that's in, like let's say Seattle in a gateway or a canal walk or whatever, right? So we were very unorthodox. I mean, our first site, this is a funny story, was next to a cemetery in Irene, Pretoria. It's a memorial garden. It was one of the first concentration camps in the Boereoorlog. So that was the site, but I knew it's going to work because it's 700 houses, it's a high LSM area, Irene, in a security village. And then when that started getting traction, we were like, okay, maybe we're onto something. So that then the model evolved, and as we went, like more shops, more data, and we could say, okay, but this is actually working. So the banks, when they ask us for they can't believe we haven't done anything ever. So, but I tell a lot of people, like, Platō is built around communities, and the best form of community you can think of is around schools, right? So Platō is built on school runs, basically, because that's usually in the heart of communities. So what we've done is just, look, where are the communities, and we bring coffee to the people, basically. Not in a mall going through a boom gate. I'm giving away our trade secrets here, but you can try, it's fine.
But yet your first one was at a cemetery, not at a school. So there might be something there.
There was actually a school right next to the cemetery.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I forgot to say that.
I think you left that out, you know, in the story.
It's more dramatic if I leave the school out.
So I mean, it's pretty amazing. So tell me, so you know, regarding failures, we always love to talk about failures. And so what are the failures that have hurt you the most? And what did you learn from that?
Specific in place or just in general in my life?
Yeah, you know, whatever comes to mind.
Yeah, obviously my first business out of university, I'm a dropout. So I played a bit of rugby after school and didn't know what to study. And anyway, and then I started my first business. But it was basically, I don't know if you remember, Eskom had this rebate program where you go to somebody and say, listen, you put a heat pump in and this light and that light. And anyway, so we facilitated that. We did about 150 projects in 2 years. So we're like, okay, we're flying. Sales reps, buckies, aircons, wraps, whatever. And anyway, so then for me, the next logical step was to create my own LED brand because we're selling a lot of lights and Eskom is paying for it. So I fly over to China, order a bunch of lights, come back, Eskom says, sorry, rebate is over.
Okay.
2 weeks notice, I go on honeymoon a week later. So that was by far my biggest, like, I want to say my darkest place in my whole journey. So it's fun to talk about failure now, it's funny, but in the moment it's not that funny.
No.
But I think out of that, it was almost like, in a way, I'm glad it happened at so young, 23 years old. It's because my whole outlook on life and money and debt, you know, was shaped in a big way. So, I'm really risk prone, like, because what's the worst can happen? You can just Like,
so basically, what you took away from that is that, okay, you know, having as little debt or no debt, you know, playing it as risk-free as possible, you know, I mean, there's nothing like risk-free, but, you know, don't take on more than you can think that you can handle, you know, if things go pear-shaped. So something about that. Was there something around working with big corporates and being reliant on them and their, you know, whips?
Yeah, definitely. I think that, and I think, so I always tell people when, so if you think of, you know, a lot of entrepreneurs, especially in USA, their first, I'm going to ask you a question, I'm interviewing now. So their first business, what is it usually, if you must think? The first, like, when people say, listen, I sold X, Y, Z.
So the first business in
Like
my
as
life,
a kid,
yeah,
you can think.
okay. Well, you sell some shit, to somebody.
Lemonade stall.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
lemonade stall. So I said, after all, I was in everything you can think of. Obviously, Eskom, yeah, not one client. So I had all this fading stuff, crypto, everything you can think of. And then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna build a business on a lemonade stall business plan. So it's easy. You get your lemons, you get your sugar, you get your water.
Yeah.
Okay, you pay me. Okay, bye bye.
Yeah.
So that was Platō. So it's easy. You're not reliant on one big corporate. You're selling stuff that's 40 rand, so you get a lot. If 10 people decide tomorrow they're not coming to Platō anymore, it's not going to really have an impact. So yeah, that was obviously a big thing I took.
Yeah. So my first thing in that was I grew up in a small village, 470 people, basically all farmers, and there was this convenience store in the village, and in the summer, he hired all the kids who wanted to work, so I became in charge of selling strawberries and potatoes in the summer, and my father, he was a bit of a he was a gentleman type, so he often kissed women on their hand when he said hello. So these women, these farmer wives, when they came to buy potatoes from me, I kissed them on the hand because I saw my father, and they just loved it,
Yes,
so I sold potatoes and strawberries like crazy. But that's it's completely shaped me, both the kissing on the hand and also, how to conduct business and you learn from early age actually, and I think one should never be afraid of being a crowd pleaser. When you run a business to consumer business, I think. But let's talk about your business and not my old farmer's wife.
I'm gonna tell the baristas to kiss the people on the hands. Let's see what happens.
You should try it,
At least.
But today with woke and all this kind of stuff, so you never know, the lawsuits on harassments, might be just coming all
Coffee
over.
And a kiss.
But
special. Running a special today.
Perfect,
Yeah, on the lips, on the hands.
Yeah. Well, why not? Let's talk a little bit about your business today. So, of course I've Googled, but give me what is the size of the business today, sort of in franchisees, your own places, and what is the total? Is it about 100? Is it more now, or?
Yeah. So it's I think 118 shops or 16, somewhere there.
So how many do you open now per week or per month?
So this month we're opening 13.
13?
13, not 30, yeah. So this is our biggest opening month, definitely.
Right.
And then December, I think we have to open another 6. So
how many cups of coffee does a franchisee need to sell, to break even?
So because our model is like small shops, low rent, 4 to 6 baristas. So I always tell people it's the 300 regular rule. So you need 300 regulars.
Okay.
Then you're making money.
Okay.
So if you take, let's say you sell 300 cups a day. Okay, I'm just doing like sand maths. But let's say 300 rand times 35 rand a cup. It is a bit more expensive, but just bear with me. So let's say 10,000 rand a day times 30 days. It's 300,000 rand a month with a GP of between 55 and 60.
Yeah.
You're making money. Yeah.
What are the ancillaries that you sell around it, where you make, extra money?
Yeah, so it's a good question because currently...
You've got a bakery as well, right?
Yes, we've got a bakery, yeah.
Is the bakeries, are they central or are they distributed, or how does that
currently our bakeries in Pretoria, so that supplies to Pretoria, Joburg sites. It's about 50 shops.
Yeah.
And now we're busy with power baking. Well, we're setting up, and then we'll be able to supply all around the country. But for now, let's say it's in Kathu, because we've got a site in Kathu. We'll just get a local pastry, Tani. Yeah.
Okay.
It makes like quiches.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's hope the quality in there is not too shabby.
Yeah, so I hate it when people give us a bad review because of the food, because I've always said, the coffee must be good. So I think like literally 70% of the time people don't complain about the coffee, they complain about the food because it's so difficult in the smaller towns to maintain quality on the pastry side. Yeah.
Right.
But I mean, we bake all the choc chip cookies and brownies from Pretoria, and then we just ship it all over the country. Yeah.
So your average, the hardcore Platō fan, what does that person look like?
I think it's
is it those unemployed people, with laptops, or
who's some of them. I think the magic of Platō, and like I say, like I wasn't sitting there and I had this master plan and it's going to work exactly like this. But I think what happened is we're appealing to the cold plungers in Sea Point that wears a burnt pakkie and airports. But we also do to the Secunda Umi that's farming with potatoes.
Yeah.
And I don't know how it happened. So and I think that's nice. So we appeal to we've by far got the biggest market in high school and students by far. And I think it's just got to do with it's maybe trendy, it's got a bit of novelty, aspiration. I always said when I started Platō, I want to create the eye store of coffee shops. And that's why we went like very clean, minimal.
They actually look like them as well.
Thank you. Yeah. So I think initially, like everybody went, like if you think of, I don't want to bash anybody, but I mean, Truth started with that very steampunk, dark wood steel, and it almost like followed. Bootleg is also dark. There was this whole trend, and I said, let's just go like completely Japanese style almost, like very zen, minimal.
Yeah.
And what we've found is that people will go into a plate and they're like, it's so clean. Meaning obviously, well, if you're Gen X, you're talking aesthetically clean, and then also it's clean. You have to keep it clean. I think it's a combination of stuff.
So brand-wise, would you say is Apple sort of one of those aspirational brands that you sort of look up to?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Steve Jobs definitely. I think he's more a hero than. Yeah. Yeah, I'm a wannabe architect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, very cool. Yeah. So 118, you said, and you're opening up a whole bunch new. You opened up in Zim, I saw on your LinkedIn now as well. That would probably not be the first place I would be thinking about when it comes to as an international expansion launch pad.
It's crazy. So luckily we got good operators. Once again, it shows like the guys who understand.
So did they come to you or did you go to them?
No. So our franchise how it works is we don't have sites ready because remember we ask locals. Okay, you stay like Gerda, best example. Mokopane, so it was Potgietersrus at a time, but it's Mokopane. She's the local physio, she's been there for 20 years. She's going to know where's the best spot in the town, not me. So she tells me, okay, this, and then we trust them. Yeah. So same with Harare. They already got 8 shops in Harare, different brands. And I just said, okay, listen, we do that. Opened, it's the best shop in the group. Harare. Better than Rondebosch, Sea Point, whatever.
And so, it's always interesting, this whole thing, where to go next. I mean, most companies, they fail on their international expansion, my companies as well, by the way. But and it's always the same when you look at these, projections. So you have country number 1 is this big, country number 2 is this big, and then you have a whole bunch of small countries which adds trouble and zero value. And I think Starbucks of course also struggle a lot with that. They launched in Australia and thought, okay, this will be similar culture as in America, but Australia had a completely different coffee culture, for instance. So tell me a bit, how do you think about that, or do you go by it, opportunistically?
I don't think about it.
So you go opportunistically?
Yeah,
but that's fine. I mean,
I think as I went on meeting great entrepreneurs and thinking of myself, I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they're just dumb enough to think it's going to work. Does it make sense?
Yeah, sure. No.
So I think I'm just dumb enough to think London is gonna work. So,
yeah.
And for me, the risk to reward is like, okay, you go there, because we signed a lease in London. We're opening. I'm flying there tomorrow, so we're opening end of Jan, right? And then people are like, did you do your gap analysis, that thing? I'm like, no, we don't even do it for London, because for me it's like the risk to reward ratio is fine for me. So okay, you open the shop. Okay, worst case, what? You're going to lose 5 million. Best case, you're going to sell 2,000 cappuccinos at £4 a day. So it's, for me, it's a risk worth taking. But they also, which they took out of Howard's actually podcast, is where they actually also said when they partner with local, like Chinese, the Italian guys, that is what we're also doing. So we partnered with a guy who's been in London for 15 years. We're doing a JV shop. So yeah, that's how we approach it. We just don't think about it, not overanalyze it.
You know, I was thinking about something. I'm just going to try to find those notes, because I actually, on that, on how to pick, the right partners and where to go, etc. You're not a reader, so you haven't read Ray Kroc's book about McDonald's, but
I've seen the movie. Does it count?
Okay. So McDonald's, early days, the following mistakes this is what they did, according to Ray Kroc, sort of they chose operators with no hospitality background, and the franchisees, they had too much autonomy. Inconsistent operations, brand dilution, etc. Letting early franchisees choose their own suppliers, and and then over-expansion, doing too much over too short time. Is there anything that rings a bell to you here?
So I think I think you can't compare McDonald's to Platō, and I'm going to tell you why. Because we've stripped all that difficult stuff. So you don't necessarily need the hospitality background, because it's not, you don't have 200 SKUs working. I mean, you've got coffee, your variations, and then you've got your powders and all that stuff.
But you need a friendly face,
100%. So we choose lacquer people, because I feel like I always tell people, if by 25 you're not a nice human being, chances are slim you're going to become nice. And also, if you're a bad person, probably you're just going to get worse, right? And we will also approach that with our baristas. We choose friendly people. So on the hospitality side, it's not somebody that had a coffee shop. So we don't really look into that. We just get lacquer people, and then we teach them how to make coffee. And it's much easier. So for instance, we've got okay, let's just make it easy, 120 shops. We do about 500,000 espressos a month, double shots. Okay, I can show you every single espresso shot's extraction time. So because we put retrofit on all our group heads in every single shop. So just high level coffee, I don't know if everybody knows that, so I'm just going to explain. We've got a recipe, let's say it's 20 grams of coffee, it has to run 30 seconds. So the barista is not allowed to over extract by 2 seconds or under extract by 2 seconds. So there's some brands in this country's parameters is 10 seconds, 10 seconds. So you're never going to get consistency. So, but the moment we did that, then we're like, okay, we can scale. And so now you can look at, okay, which baristas needs training, maintenance, is people stealing beans? So we really data driven, and it's much easier to just look at coffee versus burgers and ice cream machines. Flip now, breaking the whole time. Imagine.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's what's a bit, and that's why we could scale so quickly, because we're not a restaurant.
But on data, what are sort of the KPIs that you're, just, hysterical about, if any?
What is KPIs? I'm joking. No, so
actually, Michelle is the one who taught me what KPI was, because she used to come to me and talk about KPIs, and I was like, what is that?
It's that story of Richard Branson. Have you seen it? At 45, he was in a board meeting, and they're talking about GP and stuff. And he was just nodding. And then afterwards, one of the financial directors came and said, "You don't know what's the difference between GP and net profit, eh?" And he's like, "No, I have no idea." And he had to explain it like it's a fish and a net, and the fish that gets loose is, like, anyway. So now I know what KPIs are. I think for us, it's the biggest thing. So we look at three things: quality, consistency, community. So quality, we source by far of any, like the big chains. We do specialty coffee. We only use 84 graded beans, plus graded beans, and we also have our own roastery, which not one of the big guys, except bootleggers, they've got their own roastery. The others, they do contract roasting. So that quality we look at, which is very important. Then consistency, how are we extracting shots? We look at that the whole time. And then community. So we obviously, what's nice about Instagram and Facebook and all that, it's like Big Brother almost. You can see somebody is doing something wrong, and then obviously Google like the reviews. So we're very on top of that. So then we've got QCs and trainers and stuff who looks at that point. So.
And so how do you think about sort of growth versus quality? What is your thoughts there?
I think that's where my brother comes in, Beatrice. So I'm growth. So, and he's like the coffee guy. So there's a nice, I think, a pool, like, which we keep each other almost responsible. No, that's not the right word. Eerlijk, honest in a way.
Yeah.
So, but like I mentioned, I think we've got the systems in place now to grow very quickly without losing, and because we do hands-on operators. So in Platō, you're not allowed to have let's say you stay in Cape Town, you can't buy a franchise in Pretoria. You're a hands-on operator. We don't even work a manager's salary into the books, like in our prospectus. So our model is one franchisee, 3 to 5 Platōs, that's it. And by doing that, you have a hands-on operator who's in his business, who's looking after the business.
Right. So how do you maintain sort of, consistency throughout all these shops without, losing its soul?
That's a good question. I think the soul element, you always use it as an example because it's back to the snobbish coffee thing. If we say somebody's like the world barista champ is behind the bar, and you walk in, he doesn't greet you, he doesn't look up, does nothing, and technically he makes you the best coffee in the world, it's going to taste 7 out of 10.
Yeah, sure.
So I think the soul part for us was always, let's focus on the people, employing the right people, and let's say, yeah, sure, maybe that day the barista makes a 7 out of 10 coffee, but he greeted you, he knows your order, he writes you a nice message. The coffee is going to taste better. So it's almost like that. And I think it's the baristas and then let's call it the owner-operator model that we're running, because the owner is in the shop. He can see, and I think that's what brings the soul, in a way.
Yeah. So if I shadow you for a whole working day, throughout your various departments and your various meetings and all the stuff that you do, when would be the moment that I would say, this is why Platō wins?
Yes, not one day looks the same for me, but
let's say I shadow you for a week.
For a week, it's the people, it's our team. We've got by far the best coffee team in the country, by far, because we don't know anything about coffee. So people are like, I still can't make coffee. I outsource that. But no, I'm serious. Like we had to go get the best guys. Just to give you an idea, like there's Steve O'Kin, he's SA Barista Champ, Africa Barista Champ. He's on our team. Harry Moll, SA Barista Champ. Neil Gous has come second. John Evans has come third. Rieta, SA Cup Taster Champion, went to Worlds. So it's just by far, like, they're the coffee guys. They tell us what to do. I don't tell them what to do. So yeah, we've got an incredible. So to sum it up, long answer now. It's the people that makes Platō. I think the brand and the product, all that stuff, obviously is a ripple down effect because of the people, the right people in your team.
So can you explain? So what is the magic that people feel when they come into the to your coffee shops? What can you explain that? What is it that they feel? I know what I feel when I come into an Apple store, not the one in the waterfront, but like the real ones, in New York or San Francisco or whatever. You feel like you come to this church and you just have to buy into this religion, even if you hate it, So, how do you do that?
I think what I want people to feel is a sense of belonging, and I think you can create that with coffee, because it's not just the coffee. And so when we do our training, I always tell our baristas, make somebody's day and then sell coffee. So I think that's what we're trying to do, and that's what I want people to feel like. Like, people just want to be seen. And they just want, so I remember my wife, when we just got married, she was working as a waitress, and then at a fancy restaurant in Pretoria. And then you had to know the people's order. And like, those fancy businessmen came in, and they're coming for that. They're coming because my waitress knows my order. And, it's that sense of belonging in a way. So we've tried to do that at Platō, to really not just sell a product, but we sell a feeling, or a feeling of belonging in a way. Yeah.
So obviously, a lot of people, they want to have this belonging, and they don't have any, and so they come to this church of the Platō Coffee, and and they pull up their Apple laptops, and they sit there watching YouTube clips and pretend they're working. And so at what point do you throw them out? Do you have some cutoff time, or how does this work?
No, that's interesting. So initially, when Starbucks came to South Africa, they opened, I think, Melrose Arch. It was a 250 square shop, 12 million rand shop fit. And essentially, they're just paying the rent for, people come sitting there. Anyway, so then we said, instead of doing one 12 million rand shop, let's do 12 1 million rand shops, and then just take away. So initially, our model was very just high traffic, school routes, just get your takeaway and footek.
Yeah.
Fun. So actually, our initial furniture was this very uncomfortable, like steel chairs, like it was very bad. And then people tell us, listen, it's uncomfortable. And I'm like, yeah, it's something I thought about. You have to go. But anyway, so then we came to Cape Town, and that changed a bit. So now you have to almost.
No.
Yeah.
People love sitting here with their
crazy.
computers.
So all the obviously digital nomads.
Yeah.
The Germans love Platō for some reason.
Yeah.
In here and especially the athletes, they come here and then they go to Porch. So there's a Platō in Porch as well, because it's high altitude.
Okay.
But anyway, that's just a nugget.
So what would you say? Is there like a non-negotiable system that you hold, very, very tightly? Because if you don't, the whole thing might collapse. What would that be? Is that?
I think ultimately, when you look at, obviously, yes, brands. When I look at Platō, people are like, yes, it's a cool brand. It's almost like when you were young and you drew a picture. Your picture is never cool for yourself. It feels weird when people are like, oh, it's such a cool brand. I think ultimately it boils down. If you have to, let's say we strip away the brand, we strip away the people, we strip away Will Lindley in our shops, right? Playing. Ultimately, it's your product. If your product is crap, people maybe they're gonna come once, twice for a nice Instagram video.
Right.
But if the product is bad, they're not gonna come back. So we've always tried to almost play in that. They did a price index thing in the beginning of this year, and we were cheaper than most of the big brands on all our stuff, but you still feel you're getting a premium product at a reasonable price. So I think it's probably the product. Yeah.
So let's just have a couple of minutes here about the franchisees. What is the most common wrong reason that people decide or that they want to become a franchisee of yours?
See, I already knew the answer because that's why I smiled. I think the biggest misconception is that it's passive.
Yeah, okay.
So if you want to have a good coffee shop that really does good numbers, you have to be there, you have to be present. Roelof in George, one of our franchisees, I mean, he's there. People, and it's so funny. He's like almost like, like Zevende Laan or Friends. You know, a coffee shop. You almost know everything about the town because, anyway. So he's a good example because he's there. He knows the people by name. People know him. So yeah, it's to think you're going to buy a Platō and sit back. That's not our model. You can buy a different brand and do that, and just put a manager in. There's a lot of brands that you can do that, but not with Platō.
Right. You know, I knew this guy. He's dead now, but he ran one of the larger IT companies in South Africa back in the 80s, and they emigrated to Canada, and sort of like a retirement gig, he opened up a coffee shop in Vancouver. Down by the ferries where they go to the other cities around there, and you know, I met him a few times, and he said, "Man, you know, I should have done this when I was younger. You know, it's the most fun job I've had in my whole life." And they became very big. They were apparently like the biggest coffee shop in all of Canada. You know, so there is apparently something there with coffee that, you know, brings people together. You know, on a, I wouldn't say molecular level, you know, because you probably have to go to the bedroom for that, but, you know, just sort of more on a soul level, you know, would you say?
Yeah, definitely.
So
even if you're not a coffee drinker, when you want to have a deep chat with somebody, you say, let's go get coffee.
Yeah.
So there's
even I say that, but I'm thinking about tea.
I know.
You know, so because people don't understand that.
So it's got this it's got this almost magical thing around, let's get coffee. So you immediately know, okay, this is going to be intense or meaningful in a way. Yeah.
So let's try to wrap this up, and then we're going to open up for some questions here. I've got so many things that I want to ask you. I just want to try to find something here I can wrap this up with. What the hell? Okay, wait.
I don't have a question. I don't have an answer for that.
Let's just go into this a little bit. You say you want to build a lifestyle brand.
Yes.
So
100%.
What is the thing that you're not going to do about that? You know, are you going to go into fashion, or sort of, are you just going? You're
maybe
open for that, or
maybe, yeah. Well,
yeah, I can see you as a style icon, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So no, I think that the lifestyle thing is just. So coffee, like you mentioned, like it's bigger than just, it's not transactional. I think that's what it comes down to. You know, it's bigger than that. So to create, I mean, like the running groups and the cyclists, and so it's just this it's like this magnet which you can build different stuff around. So we're launching our running club next year. We did the collab with USN. We did a collab with Freedom of Movement just now, beach towels and. So it's very like broad. You can almost go into anything in a way. Because
okay, so
coffee is it's like neutral in a way.
Basically, sky's the limit. You know, you could start your own religion.
Yeah, I would love to have an F1 team one day. Imagine.
Yeah.
Huh?
Okay. Well, let's hope for that. Let's open up the floor for some question here.